I'm, incredibly proud to say that that product accounts for now 80% of the entire UK payment volume related to open banking. So I think the interesting with ChatGPT is, like any technology, I think the temptation is to run after the technology and put that into the organization quickly. I think realistically, you've got to take a step back and ask yourself the question, what problem is ChatGPT solving for you? And what needs are you fulfilling? And what is the challenge, right? Because in some respects, knowing the questions that you're trying to answer from tools like AI directs you in terms of the data that you're going to need. And beyond the technology, you should be thinking about how you implement it too. So I'm always a big advocate of, start small, prioritize, focus on one use case at a time, prove out that use case, but at the same time, incrementally build out your capability, which means your workforce, the people that are going to manage the AI, the experts that you need to engage, even the technology that you may need to acquire, and also some of the data that you're going to need to address that first use case that you develop. So I'm a huge believer in one use case at a time and the problem that you're looking to address with AI, rather than running to the data first, acquiring the technology, and almost building a solution looking for a problem. I think this is a great question, because I think what we've seen over probably the last 12 months, 18 months, is the emergence of new technologies. And even as early as 2 weeks ago with Apple's announcement of the Vision Pro, I think what we're starting to see is the emergence of new channels and new engagement. So things like virtual reality, metaverses are starting to break down the barriers, particularly with more people now working remotely because of the pandemic. Things like virtual reality, we're already seeing the ability to have productive team meetings, bring people from remote locations into one virtual space, collaborative working. Even existing tools like Zoom and things like that are making us collaborate better. But also, don't forget, artificial intelligence, insights and analytics, giving us better indications of team performance, even sentiment analysis and how people feel within teams, is all starting to merge together in terms of creating this hyper productive environment, which also starts to feel a bit more personalized. So I think what we'll see, even looking out 5 years, is the blending of the virtual world and the physical world will drive much more team collaboration and performance, because we won't be constrained by location anymore. And I think that's been an example of the pandemic in terms of how we responded for everybody working from home. And now as we get into more of the virtual worlds, I think that will bring another level of productivity that we've not seen before. So I think the coolest thing that I've done was the thing that I was first employed to do, actually. So because of my background in open banking and being involved in it from the very early days, I was initially hired to build Mastercard's first open banking product, which was basically, in very simple terms, think of it like a single telephone number to every open banking connection in the world. So as a customer, you would only ever need one specification to access all of those APIs and those open banking capabilities. What was special about that project or that product was we built it in 6 months. So we fully deployed Agile into the organization properly, probably for the first time. And then off the back of that, we enabled the capability for banks, retailers, any organization then to be able to offer to their customers a means of making payments with open banking, or even looking at other bank accounts data in an aggregated way in a single app. Where does that now live today in the UK particularly? Well, I'm incredibly proud to say that that product accounts for now 80% of the entire UK payment volume related to open banking. So there are some incredibly large retailers now using that product to allow customers to pay off their credit card bill. Like I say, 80% now of all of the UK open banking payment traffic is going through that product and that platform. Incredibly built in 6 months. Where it stands today now is scaled across many European markets, done with a team of 52 engineers, all brought together, didn't know each other. And at the end of it, then we created something truly amazing. So that's something I'm very proud of. I think this is one of my favorite topics. So very simply, think of the Internet of Things as physical objects with sensors that pass data between each other across internet connectivity. Huge implications for commerce. To be honest, it's already existing today. If you go into the Apple store today and you've got your user ID logged in, Apple knows it's you when you walk in, and that's all done through beacon technology. Where it will go in terms of commerce, it'll cover the entire supply chain. So for example, today I can put sensors in terms of goods, for example, that might be food, that might be transported from the origin of that food to the address it's being delivered to. Sensors can check that piece of food through the transit and see, for example, if the temperature is getting too high, which means as an organization or people responsible for that supply chain, I can now continually improve that supply chain through using sensors. Or when the goods arrive at the store, I can use sensors to actually start to understand, by placing a product in a certain position, does that sell more? It just brings new experiences. Even simple things like your fridge will become a smart device. So that fridge could maybe notify your phone when you're in a shopping mall, and maybe you've forgotten something and you're told actually you've forgotten X, Y, and Z because there's cameras in the fridge and various sensors. So what it will mean for commerce is effectively devices will now start to interact with us and start to learn the things that we like and communicate with each other to give us better experiences. And like I say, that's already happening today, either in the Apple store or even the Tesla cars. Those cars today speak to each other and pass data to improve navigation, improve all sorts of information. So it has ramifications across all aspects of our e-commerce life. So I think a couple of things. So for me, the first is to be optimistic. I think there's a temptation when we talk about the future or anything that's new is to focus on the negatives. I want people to be inspired a little bit and optimistic about where we're heading, but at the same time make them feel that they understand what this means to their organization, and they leave the talk with a set of practical steps of how to actually tackle these things and know where to start and put meaningful plans in place. And at the same time, also feel like they've learned something new and maybe had a bit of fun along the way. But I think with a lot of the topics that we talk about, it's making sure that people feel like where they're going isn't fearful, but they are given some steps and maybe things that they hadn't thought about, which I hope will do two things. One is it may get them to look in the rear view mirror of their investments and say, well, actually, if any of these things came true, am I investing in the right thing? That's the first thing. And secondly, if they're already on this journey, it just validates that they're actually heading in the right direction. And the third thing is it gives leadership, hopefully, and the people attend the reasonable level of knowledge to be able to explain these things back to their organization and what it's going to mean for them and their people. So that's really what I hope people take from it. In some respects, it's not really about me. It's really about the topic and hopefully how it resonates with the audience.